All right, welcome to the new JFK show number 192. So Don's kind of wondering, when are we going to call it the old JFK show? So we're not so new anymore, but
it's the old new JFK show.
Yeah, absolutely. So tonight we've got Dr. Fesser's got a presentation for you. I've got a small clip that I really don't know what to make of. It ended up on 153 News under JFK. So I figure it's like our duty to keep an eye on the stuff that goes on 153 News on JFK. So we'll scope that out. And then I have some really good footage that I think we need to take a look at again, especially with all the things we know in Rouse and Kay's work.
Jerry, you didn't flip your hourglass.
Oh, my goodness. All right.
And we know today's going to be an abbreviated show anyway, so.
Yeah. So it's just to kind of keep a track and keep our tradition going. There you go.
Okay, well, let me flip this up. Can you see it now?
Yes, we can. Beautiful picture.
Well, we got a very peculiar article that's just appeared in a forensic science magazine that basically is an attempt to resuscitate the official account of 3 shots fired by Lee Oswald from the book depository, if you can believe that, in 2018. This is entitled, JFK Was Not Shot from the Grassy Knoll, Suggests New Research. And, to me, it's stunning because we're not really talking about new research. We're talking about attempting to revive a moribund theory, actually one that's been pronounced dead for many, many years. Here's what he writes.
Yeah, I saw the date on there. We're talking 4/25/2018. So we got new research here?
Well, it's a new article, but it's old content.
Yeah.
The long-held conspiracy theory that John F. Kennedy was shot by a second gunman on the Grassy Knoll is wrong, according to a new analysis of video footage of the shooting published in the journal Helion. The results support the official autopsy findings. JFK suffered a gunshot wound caused by the same type of rifle as that owned by Lee Harvey Oswald, fired from the vicinity of the Texas School Book Depository building located behind the motorcade. This, to me, is unbelievable. U.S. President John F. Kennedy was assassinated on 22 November 1963 while riding in a presidential motorcade in Dealey Plaza in Dallas, Texas. Lee Harvey Oswald was arrested shortly after the shooting. The now widespread conspiracy theory posits that JFK was actually shot from a different location, the Grassy Knoll, ignoring, of course, the fact that he was actually shot from multiple locations. Nicholas Nally, the author of the study and senior research scientist at IMSG Inc. in the U.S., has been interested in the assassination since he was a child and believes it's still worthy of investigation today. The classified JFK files were recently released, and the fate of a few remaining files will soon be decided, he said. Given the current trendiness of news that not based on facts, the study shows that through thorough scientific investigation can make a difference in supporting one theory over another, and I therefore believe that the topic is as relevant today as it was nearly 55 years ago, he said.
I agree. I agree that it's still relevant today, 55 years
ago. That's right. There were several video recordings of the incident. One in particular shows the shooting in detail. The Zapruder film shows the president's head moving back and to the left, which Nally soon realized was due to a recoil effect. But he also noted that observers had missed one vital part of the evidence, the forward head snap at the moment of the fatal bullet impact. While when analyzed using fundamental classical mechanics, the forward head snap, which is visible in the Zapruder film, provides proof that JFK was shot in the head from behind. Of course, it's true, he was shot in the head from behind, but not only. Rather than gloss over this fact, as has been done by most previous authors, including anti-conspiracy authors, I chose to study and model it explicitly, said Nally. He developed a simple one-dimensional gunshot wound dynamics model to explain the movements observed in the film. The model makes explicit calculations of the forward head snap that occurred before JFK's head moved back and to the left after the gunshot. To do this, the model uses known parameters from the crime scene, including bullet mass, speed, and diameter, camera shutter frequency, and autopsy measurements. This is the first time this aspect of the case has been considered so thoroughly and quantitatively. Well, of course, when he's talking about bullet mass, speed, and diameter, he's presuming what kind of bullets were impacting on the body, which is making an important question. The calculations show quantitatively that JFK's reactions after being shot in the head, as seen in the film, are physically consistent with a gunshot wound caused by a high-energy Mannlicher or military rifle.
Wait, hold on. A high-energy Carcano?
I notice. You see, he's equivocating. He's not saying high velocity.
High energy.
Yeah, high energy.
So what?
The rifle owned by Lee Harvey Oswald fired from the vicinity of the Texas School Book Depository building where Oswald worked, located behind the motorcade. The findings do not entirely rule out a conspiracy, but they do refute the most prominent theories that the fatal shot was fired from the grassy knoll. They also oppose the idea that the Zapruder film proves a conspiracy. In fact, the opposite appears to be true. I found that the Zapruder film shows President Kennedy being shot from behind and not from the infamous grassy knoll. In corroboration of the official autopsy findings, that's the only smoking gun in the film, said Nally. The historical fact of the matter is the U.S. federal government investigations were comprised of upstanding civil servants of high ethical standards who, in spite of difficult circumstances, by and large got the basics of the case correct. Gag me with a spoon. The models presented in the Hellion paper were developed to apply to the Kennedy assassination, but it could have wider applications. The underlying physical principles could form a basic conceptual basis for understanding the wounding mechanisms involved in similar dynamics. Well, he's just appealing to classical mechanics. I published a comment about it, which last time I looked was still up. What complete nonsense. I have published 3 books of expert studies: Assassination Science 1998, Murder in Dealey Plaza 2000, and The Great Zapruder Film Hoax 2003, where we proved the x-rays were altered, the body was changed, and the whole movies were extensively revised. The author either knows that what he has published has long since been refuted, or he has demonstrated his massive incompetence. More recently, I published a 4th, JFK, Who, How, and Why, 2017, which includes proof that the alleged assassin, Lee Harvey Oswald, was standing in the doorway of the Texas School Book Depository at the time the motorcade passed by, which means he not only cannot have been the lone gunman, but cannot have even been one of the shooters, of whom there appear to have been at least 6, where a minimum of 8 to 10 shots were taken. JFK was hit at least 4 times, in the back from behind and the throat from in front, and twice in the head from behind and from the right front. See, JFK, Who was responsible and why, the Brian Rue Show on BitChute for a video overview. Now, as you guys both know, I mean, Josiah Thompson, already back in 6 Seconds in Dallas in 1967, had a quite brilliant analysis of the double hit theory, to wit, that the JFK was hit in the back of the head, where you have the forward motion from 212 to 213, and then you have the back and to the left from 313 through 316, which turns out to be an artifact of the editing process, where actually it was hit in the back of the head. He slumped forward. Jackie eased him back up, was looking him right in the face when he was hit in the right temple by a frangible or exploding bullet, and he slumped to the left. They edited the film and merged the 2 shots and created the awkward back and to the left, which no one observed in Dealey Plaza, where I knew Josiah Thompson was cashing in his chips when he started to disavow the double hit theory, but where David Lifton had independently verified it with Richard Feynman at Caltech by taking large photographs of the frames, which Feynman himself measured and determined the forward motion from 312 to 313, in the back from 313 through 316. It also appears to be the case that this author is ignorant of David Bandick's studies of the autopsy x-rays, discovering, for example, the fist-sized blowout at the back of the head, here characterized as area P, which corresponds so closely to what the author also appears not to know, frame 374, where you can also see the blowout, where the pink flap, of course, is the skull flap, not part of the wound, which is the blue-gray matter. As we all know, brain is typically referred to as gray matter. Here you can see why in the closeness of the correspondence. In addition, of course, Mantic has been able to place the Harper fragment right at the back of the head. And this guy has claimed that JFK was shot from behind, as the official account maintains, finds the Harper fragment inexplicable, and you know, all by itself demonstrates his utter incompetence. We even have, of course, the reports from NBC News, for example, where they were reporting 2 shots that were being reported in real time, namely the shot to the throat, where Malcolm Perry, MD, reported to the Parkland press conference 3 times that afternoon that he'd been shot in the throat from in front, that the bullet was coming at him, which these worthies, including Chet Hutley, seen here on the left, were reporting. And subsequently, that the president was killed by a bullet right through the head that entered the right temple and blew his brains out the back of his head, attributed to Admiral George Berkeley, the president's personal physician. So if you listen to that account, where later in the evening, when the story started to dribble in that the gunman had been above and behind Frank McGee, who is nobody's fool, says, this is incongruous. How can the man have been shot from in front, from behind? Which, of course, was the issue the Warren Commission had to wrestle with.
Wait, so hold on. Go back. Got to go back one, Dr. Fetzer.
Yeah.
I wanted to show you guys a picture of 3 very confused men. I mean, just look at each one of them. They're going like, what is going on here? Especially the one on the right. So do you know who all these are? I know we got Huntley, and then do you know who it is in the middle?
No, the other 2 named, but we can find it. I mean, this is still on See It Now, NBC Classic footage, still online, Gary.
Yeah, you can tell, man, they're looking around, kind of wondering what is going on, because it's not adding up. So
if you put together the official account of Jack having been hit in the back, and that was the conclusion of the FBI and the Secret Service the day of the shooting, and hit in the back of the head, which was also their conclusion, with what was being reported from the mainstream media at the time, which at least had a degree of integrity we haven't seen since, that he'd been shot in the throat from in front and in the right temple from the right front. Then you have the 4 shots that were hit, the 4 hits to JFK at the time, where, of course, in addition, we've done all the studies we've reviewed here so many times, on which Larry, among others, is so expert, Ralph Sinkay, Richard Hook, and a host of others, of Lee in the doorway, where we have doorman, and where Larry has nailed it down that indeed that was Lee Oswald, where Billy Lovelady in his red and white vertically striped short sleeve shirt was standing behind him with his arms raised. All this is established in our research and has been in print for a substantial period of time, such that this guy authoring this article is completely derelict, because the actual account looked approximately like this, where he was hit in the back by a shot fired from the top of the county records building. That's the green line. Or that he was hit in the front by a shot fired in front. That's the orange line, which we now move into the interior of the triple underpass that passed through the windshield to hit him in the throat. That there were 3 shots fired from the Daltex, the yellow lines, 2 of which missed, one of which hit a distant curb and injured the bystander, James Tague, another which missed and hit a chrome strip over the limousine, but the 3rd of which hit JFK in the back of the head after William Greer, the driver, pulled the limousine to the left into a halt, where JFK then slumped forward, Jack eased him back up and was looking him right in the face when he was hit by that frangible or exploding bullet from the corner of the triple underpass and the picket fence. See, on the left center there, the arrow that caused him to slump to the left. We have the additional shot from the picket from the near the pergola in red, where it would have hit Jackie, so he pulled his shot. It wound up in the grass, and then additional shots in orange from the not the east, but the west side of the Book Depository, firing at John Connolly in the mistaken belief it was Ralph Urborough. I mean, to me, it is completely dumbfounding that this guy would display this degree of incompetence about JFK in the month of April of 2018.
Yeah, what's his name?
Oh,
the author?
Oh, it's Keel. I got it there in the, it's there in the slides.
So would you say Josiah Thompson is one of the first heroes to turn face on us? Because remember, he had a great book, 6 Seconds in Dallas. And then,
well, he had a great book, Gary, but Vince Salandria called him out because in the concluding paragraph of the book, he says nothing in his book proves conspiracy, which was simply ridiculous. I mean, the double hip theory we have just reviewed proves conspiracy. And of course, he had the McClellan diagram of the gaping fisteye hole at the back of the head. There was a great deal in his book that proved conspiracy. So Vince Salandria called him out as an op, and of course it has now been substantiated where I have published a great deal about Josiah Thompson in the meanwhile. Don.
Okay, I put a link in the chat. Gary, there's a link in the chat there for the Malcolm Kilduff press conference.
Uh-huh.
You know, if we have time, maybe we should play that clip. You know, that's one we allude to all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we have it's like a three and a half minute.
Where he says it was a simple matter of a bullet right
Yes.
in the head while he points to his right temple.
Yeah.
That's pretty hard evidence to ignore, isn't it? Coming from the acting press secretary announcing the death of our 35th president.
Is there anybody that wants to support the single bullet bullshit? You know, start there.
It's just embarrassing. This is called the Forensic Science Magazine, and it's publishing drivel, complete drivel. They obviously don't have any referee process. The article was never reviewed, or it would have been rejected out of hand.
Well, I mean, remember, this was a theory. This single bullet theory. Where did it originate? That's right. 4 Jewish lawyers on the Warren Commission: Ball, Bellin, Eisenberg, and Redlich.
Well, wait a minute, Don. Hold on, Don. Did we have any homicide detectives on the case?
Nope.
Wait, military people with ballistics evidence?
Nope.
Wait a minute.
Any people with gunshot wound experience? No.
Come on. What did we have?
We had 4 Jewish lawyers come up with
in a room for 8 hours. And they came out with the biggest lie ever perpetrated
on the American people. Public. Yep.
There you go. So what else can we say, Dr. Fetzer?
Yeah, I know it's outrageous, but Don makes an excellent point.
Absolutely.
David Mandick wrote already and complimented me for the rebuttal there, but I mean, it's ridiculous that this even made its way into print.
Well, if it wasn't for the power structure behind the lie, none of these lies would still be with us in 2018.
That's, of course, completely correct, Don. Completely correct.
All right, so I have to show you a picture, fellas. Here we go. Is this what you're talking about, Don?
Well, yeah. Well, there's one place to start. Yeah. Let's look.
Tell me, you got NBC News and New York Times also loaded with Zionists? Are these all great dual citizens?
Yes. Yeah. There's no organization that's got more Jews than the New York Times does.
Yeah. I need that image. Can you send it to me, Don?
Absolutely. Jim.
Larry, Gary.
Wake up. This is all of them, not just these 3.
No. They're all
I mean, I have the image for CNN, but I don't have it for NBC and for the New York Times. That's excellent.
You do now.
I mean, look how ridiculous it is, how a tiny country can control a big, powerful country. You dominate the intelligentsia.
I'd be willing to bet that article that you just read came from one of these. And let me also say this. All right, we had a supposed shooting in Toronto, terror in Toronto, and we also had a naked gunman running around in a Waffle House. I mean, how inconspicuous can you be when you're naked with an AR-15?
They're just making this shit up. It's unbelievable. We've already looked at the Toronto case. It's a classic false flag. You got a truck that's supposed to have mowed down a whole lot of people, but there isn't a speck of blood on the front of the truck. You have a body lying there, but it doesn't look real. In fact, you see a hand. It appears to be a mannequin. This is just what they did in Nice, France. You had a truck that was supposed to have mowed down 84 people, not a speck of blood. You looked at the bodies. They were mannequins. They do a lot of product placement. This event took place across the street from the Simon Wiesenthal Holocaust Center. I mean,
there you go.
Give me a break.
Who do you think coordinated this attack?
Hold on, Dr. Fetzer. I want everyone to know why we're on 153 News, because if you can do it now. If you Google, should we do it now? Let's go ahead and do it. Hold on. We're going to Google YouTube. Hold on. We're going to Google on YouTube Waffle House hoax. WAFFE Waffle.
Oh, you're going the wrong way there.
Waffle House shooting.
Yeah, but hoax. Yeah, where's the hoax?
HOAX. Now, I can tell you, a long time ago, it was all kind of things. But let's see what we have. Hold on. We've got Global News, the Associated Press.
Yeah, they manipulate the algorithm to suppress all the interesting discussion about what really happened.
Hold on. CBS News, USA Today. Oh, wait, hold on. Let me just keep CBS,
Yep.
MSNBC, CBS.
Yeah, they're trying to smother us with the mainstream rubbish.
Even the local. See the local stuff? News Channel 5, KVU TV. So it's been, I mean, they have come in with a vengeance. And who are they? Well, I'll tell you. Well, never mind. Go ahead and read it for yourself. So there you have it, gentlemen.
That was an excellent point, Gary. Excellent point.
Oh, yeah, right in front of us. So, all right, so the next thing we're going to do is, guys, look, I love 153 News, and I'm going to be straight up. I don't know what to think about this next clip. I really don't. But the fact it is, we were first on JFK research. There's a couple of other things that have come up, but not much. But I want everyone to kind of take a look at this and just tell me what in the hell do you make out of this. And it's not even really about the Mandela effect. I didn't want to talk about that. So here we go.
Late films have arrived in our newsroom from Dallas showing the scenes of horror and disbelief outside Parkland Hospital. Newsmen hurry to the emergency room. The president's wife arrives, stunned. This is Mrs. Kennedy in the middle. At this point, no one knew whether the president was alive or dead.
That wasn't Mrs. Kennedy in the middle. She was in the limousine all the way there.
With a Dallas policeman who had sped the president to the hospital. And
right.
The emergency room.
Wait, hold on. Okay, what the announcer said is the president's wife arrives at the hospital, is what the announcer said.
But she was in the limo with Jack. She held his body all the way there. This person he's identifying as Mrs. Kennedy isn't Mrs. Kennedy. She's not wearing the clothing Jackie was wearing. She bears a vague resemblance, very superficially, but this is just a blunder by the commentator.
All right, here we go. That's why we have you on the team there, Dr. Fetzer.
Goes Mrs. Kennedy. A corsage of roses lies inside the car in which President Kennedy was shot. The president's wife arrives, stunned. This is Mrs. Kennedy in the middle. At this point, no one knew whether the president was alive or dead.
She was wearing a pink suit with a pink hat, and of course it got blood all over it. I mean, this is just a colossal blunder. This is just stupid.
All right, we're gonna give him his piece. He's got another minute and 20 minutes.
Gary, can't hear you. Can't hear you.
Yeah, All right, so we're just going to give him his piece. We got a minute and 20 seconds.
Right, go ahead and run the whole thing, sure.
Mrs. Kennedy conferring with a Dallas policeman who had sped the president to the hospital. Mrs. Kennedy conferring with a Dallas policeman who had sped the president to the hospital. Mrs. Kennedy conferring with a Dallas policeman who had sped the president to the hospital. And into the emergency room goes Mrs. Kennedy. A corsage of roses lies inside the car in which President Kennedy was shot.
So how do you explain that? You can't. Basically what you're watching there is the second ending to the JFK assassination that they didn't use. They shoot multiple endings in films to try to keep it a secret as to how it's going to end so nobody can leak the information out and can keep the secret. So what you're seeing is a slip up that accidentally got aired, and it proves to you right there that that event was a staged fake event.
Who is this? Dallas Goldbug? Who made this, Gary?
Yeah, I was gonna say if it's well aware one, that's Dallas Goldbug, and that's
This is just just a blunder, and the guy's not smart enough to recognize that the reporter, when calling that to be Jackie, didn't know what he was talking about.
Dallas Goldberg, Dallas Goldberg.
Dallas Goldberg. I don't think
it might as well. It's probably his real name, but it's just pure disinfo. It's just bullshit. So
yeah, I'm with you there. Hang on. All right, let's take a little break since we're gonna have our abbreviated show. This is the new JFK show number 192. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back to the new JFK show number 192, and we're without Larry Rivera tonight, so we'll just have to do what we can on that. All right, so fellas, we're gonna go ahead and take a look at some footage that I'm not sure. I haven't seen all this footage before. It seems to be more than we're normally used to seeing. Now, I could be wrong about that. So let's go ahead and comment on this after we're done. And I'll stop in between each one and we can comment on it.
Another major story.
Possibility, Mr. Howard, that there was some connection between Oswald and Ruby, that they had met or knew each other.
There is that wild rumor going around. So far as I know, and so far as I am concerned, I don't think there's a bit of truth in that.
A performer of Mr.
I think he was mistaken.
This is a memory expert. Person who does that kind of a performance.
In what cases have you represented Mr. Ruby in the...
Is it true? Have you seen the map of the Dallas Morning News that's signed by the police?
No, I haven't.
One more question, Mr. Howard. Is it true that Mr. Ruby may have left certain personal effects like identification and money in his car? Yesterday, the car was found in a parking lot adjacent to police headquarters.
He could have. I don't know.
Mr. Howard, you say that you have had some support evidence in your defense of Ruby. Have you had any adverse telephone calls or anything such as that?
Had one crank call, you know, the kinds you get in cases like this.
To what effect?
Oh, something about the hate group's going to get you or something like that.
Do y'all recognize that reporter on the right?
He does look vaguely familiar. Who is it?
He will go on to host the McNeil-Lehrer News Hour for a very, very, very long time.
Yeah.
You expect those things.
Mr. Howard, does he realize that what he's done perhaps create a question for the rest of history, whether who killed President Kennedy?
Can you explain why during his present...
He asked him, will he realize what he has done? And after a lot of Ralph's work, I wonder if he does realize what has happened.
Well, look at the false report he's giving there. He hasn't done any investigation. Of course, Lee Oswald and Jack Ruby knew each other. Beverly Oliver, for example, with whom I discussed the matter, interviewed her about it, was introduced to Lee Oswald by Jack Ruby. She would come to the Carousel after she performed at another club. She didn't work at the Carousel, but she'd come there for relaxation. And Jack called her over and said, I'd like you to meet my friend Lee Oswald of the CIA. And Beverly says she doesn't know what that meant at the time, and she doesn't know what it meant today, but she was introduced to Lee Oswald as being with the CIA at the Carousel Club by Jack Ruby, which all by itself refutes this ignorant denial that they knew each other. But of course, they're just part of the cover-up and trying to frame Lee, and they don't want to suggest there's a connection.
Yeah. A lying lawyer. Who would have ever thought about that? Don, go ahead.
So, yeah, what happened to Lee Oswald's CIA 201 file?
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, so yeah, Lee Oswald was definitely a CIA operative, and he was an FBI informant as well.
All right, so here we go.
Prior to the shooting, he must have been within close proximity of Oswald, but apparently that never showed any emotional outbursts or never said anything. He was here at times when it is believed that Oswald would have passed him by. He was around a group of people. Did this build up, this emotional?
I'm sure it's built up over a period of several days. I'm going to represent him in the manner that I think is for his best interest.
What is his best interest?
All right, so anybody want to comment on that one?
Don?
Go ahead. What do you think about it, Jim? I'll let you.
Well, it's just silly that this is so insubstantial, so superficial that no one knows what they're talking about. They don't have any facts at their disposal, but of course, part and parcel of an elaborate scheme to frame an innocent man for a crime he did not commit.
Yeah,
that sums it up.
Yeah. So what they were saying is that why didn't he shoot him before? He didn't look like he was angry or anything like that. There were no outbursts. And then the lawyer offered the explanation that, well, the anger built up over time to protect Mrs. Kennedy. And so there's his lawyer covering big time. All right, so here we go. We're going to go on to my favorite JFK girl, Jada.
And now the headliner of our show, direct from New Orleans. Ladies and gentlemen, Jada!
Jada, how long did you know Jack Ruby?
I knew Jack Ruby for approximately 4, 5, 6 months.
In what relationship?
I was employed as the feature at the Carousel Club, and I had known Jack before I went to work there, and I had a slight hassle with Jack, and I had left, and that was the end of my association with Jack.
What about politics? Does he seem interested in politics, particularly regarding the Kennedys?
I have heard Jack talk about the Kennedys, and I've been trying to think, and it's so confusing today, but I believe he disliked Bobby Kennedy.
No recollection of what he had ever said about the president.
Yes, we follow that statement up about Bobby with something about Jack Kennedy, but I can't, for the minute, just form it in my mind.
Do you think that Jack Ruby is the type of man that is capable of killing the assassin of President Kennedy out of love for Kennedy, out of political motives?
I don't think he loved Kennedy that much. I don't know why he would do it. I'd say he would be perfectly capable of an act like that. Very much so.
But the reasons for it, those are hard to pin down, as the portrait of Jack Ruby emerges piece by piece. This is for good, ABC to understand that.
So we would
Piece
go,
by piece, indeed.
yeah. So we'd go another 45 to 50 years before Rouse and Kay would come along.
Yeah, yeah. Gary, we're losing your voice.
Yeah, might be my internet. Is that better?
Yeah, a little better, yeah.
Yeah, we're going to go 45 years before Rouse and Kay. Even these people believed it had happened. They literally fooled everyone with this.
Of course.
They just couldn't have done any better.
Of course.
It looks like Jada and David Ferry had the same eyebrow person.
Yeah. You know, you can tell Jada's not the brightest bulb, but like you said, she's no Jackie Kennedy, just like Marilyn Monroe. I'm sure her talents lie in other areas, to quote Dr. Fetzer from the last show. All right, so here we go.
The city officials of Dallas, the city police officials, Police Chief Jess Curry, and federal agents are meeting at this hour at the chief's office and are awaiting the arrival from Washington of a key Justice Department official, apparently to piece together the strange facts and the multitude of rumors and suspicious stories.
Yeah, he said the federal people were on the way to piece it all together and determine what really happened. So.
Because they knew before it even took place.
The fix was in, yes.
Yeah, they were going to come by and tell these local boys just what the hell happened. All right, so now we're going to see the District Attorney Henry Wade, who is of the Roe versus Wade fame, lying his ass off is the only way I can put it. So let's go ahead and let him do it.
I don't pass on that. Unusual for being that proud. I don't. Well, I haven't been here since last night, so I don't know anything about liberty.
Oswald and Ruby were previously appointed.
I think I heard it on radio or something, but I don't know anything about it.
We have a chance to talk to Ruby.
I have not talked with. No, sir, I've not talked with either one of them.
We get a chance to talk to her.
I don't know anything about that. This was entirely about going over the evidence. I thought some of you would want.
You know Ruby before this.
No, sir. Saw him in this very same room Friday night when we had the defendant up here.
There was a day party for Texas Bar Association in the Adolphus Hotel. Were you there?
No, sir, I wasn't there. As a matter of fact, if some of you will recall, he asked a question from out here in the audience, or answered a question. He's standing right back here, and I didn't know who he was. I thought he was a member of the press, and he told me as we walked out of here that he was a nightclub operator.
What question did he ask?
What?
What question did he ask?
I don't remember, but maybe it was an answer, but he said something.
Friday night when I asked you to do an interview with me on the phone, then you had another call, and Ruby was hanging around in the background. You were on the phone, and I said, and then you had to go away, and I asked Ruby, because he seemed to me like a detective. He seemed to be all over this place. I said, would you see if you could get him on the phone? So over here now, and he went around, and he got you, and he brought you over to my telephone.
It might have been where he told me who he was. I didn't know who he was either when he. I think someone here answered that question in that he answered a question. Somebody asked something and he answered it back there, and I don't know what it was. I think it was some question about a street or an address or a name or something.
You look to me like you're a good friend. I don't know.
Needless to say, what he's talking about is when someone said that Lee Oswald was in New Orleans with the Free Cuba Committee, Jack Ruby called out Fair Play for Cuba Committee, because the Free Cuba Committee was an anti-Castro organization that wanted to free Cuba from communist domination. The Fair Play for Cuba Committee was a pro-Castro organization that wanted to seek Cuba given a fair deal by the United States. So he was correcting the record, and it's interesting that Henry Wade is so ignorant of so many aspects of the case.
Well, the Fair Play for Cuba Committee had like 3 people in it. It was Lee, and then a couple of his handlers, I think.
I know. I think he was the only member in New Orleans at the time, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A couple of guys from ONI and CIA and the NRO and maybe the NSA.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Right in the heart of the intelligence community, the U.S. intelligence community, you find Lee Oswald operating.
Yeah. So, what about Henry Wade not knowing who Jack Ruby was as far as the police department?
That's ridiculous. Half the police department hung up there all the time. I mean, they'd go there to watch the strippers, and he may or may not have given them free booze, but Jack was very tight with the Dallas Police Department. Everyone knew Jack Ruby.
Mm-hmm. All right, what we're going to do, this is Jack Ruby saying something that I think Dr. Fetzer said before.
Somebody asked something and he answered it back there, and I don't know what it was. I think it was some question about a street or an address or a name or something.
Right. It'll be proven in a few days later what the charges be filed against me, plus the fact of the assassination. Complete conspiracy against me.
The only thing I can say, what's your name, man? And I'll know how to do it. Eric Kennedy. Everything pertaining to what's happening has never come to the surface. The world will never know the true facts of what occurred, my motives. In other words, I'm the only person in the background that knows the truth pertaining to everything relating to my testimony. Do you think it'll ever come out? No, because unfortunately, the people that have so much to gain and have such a material motive for putting a position on me will never let the true facts come above board to the world. Now, these people are in very high positions, yeah? Yes.
Judge Burton.
All right, Dr. Fetzer. He's talking about LBJ. Why isn't he screaming Lyndon Johnson right now?
Well, he did, Gary. I mean, at various times he said to reporters, are you talking about the man at the top? He said, yes, he was. He made it very clear that Lyndon Johnson was the player behind the scene, making all these things happen. And also that he knew his life was in jeopardy as long as he remained in Dallas, and that he'd only have the opportunity to speak freely in Washington, D.C. He appealed to Earl Warren that he be taken to Washington, but the Chief Justice declined, which in my opinion was a gross blunder on his part. This is one of a number of counts on which I fault Earl Warren for his handling of the role. He didn't want to assume, but where LBJ humiliated him into taking the head of the investigation, the Warren Commission, which, had it actually done its job properly, might have yielded some indictments of actual parties to the assassination that would have eventually made its way through the judiciary, through the judicial system to the Supreme Court, where he as Chief Justice had already been compromised, contaminated by prior involvement. So this may be the right point, Gary, for us to take a break tonight, given we're on a short one. There's interesting stuff here, and I'm glad Don may want to add a few words here before we conclude.
Okay, well, what I'd like to do, if we can, just for a second, let's skip over to Ruby stuff, and I just want to put on what went on before Lee Oswald was supposedly shot. So
go ahead.
Just a couple minutes
go ahead.
We'll call it.
Yeah. Now that's a big deal. Can you hold this thing? Yeah. I'm not sure I'm speaking about arbitrary close down around the test.
And if you'll roll, I'll start narration. Here comes the truck. Now, this is the armored truck that will carry Lee Harold Oswald from the basement here of Dallas Police Headquarters
downtown to the Dallas County Sheriff's Office and the Dallas County Jail. Strict security precautions have been exercised from the very beginning and have been even increased this morning as fear arises and grows stronger that someone may attempt to take the life of the man accused of murdering the President of the United States. Inside the basement here at Dallas Police Headquarters, guards are stationed at points all across the inside of the basement. All incoming cars throughout the morning have been carefully checked. Even the police vehicles have been searched inside the trunk and inside the rear compartments of paddy wagons.
All right, what I want to know is, weren't we told that there was only one police officer that was in charge of coming and going at the ramp?
And you're seeing at least 2 here.
All right, there's much more than that. There's like 5 cops laying around. There's reporters everywhere. If you look
I was
around,
talking about uniformed officers. These may be reporters, of course. One was taking notes.
Yeah. All right, so let's kind of look around. I think you see it's definitely more than one person.
Here in the basement, officers have checked every vehicle coming in, and no one who is not a member of the press and not able to show identification can enter the basement. The basement is empty except for
I'm counting about 5 cops at this point.
That's very good, Gary.
Large gathering of reporters who are now watching the truck being moved into position. Outside the building,
There's 3 right there.
3 right there, yeah.
Constant ring around Dallas City Hall. And a comparatively small group of spectators are now gathered across from the basement entrance from which the armored car will depart. Security precautions have been tightened more and more as the morning has worn on. According to the people in the jail office, Oswald spent a restful night and got perhaps a good night's sleep. They said that he did rest well and was.
All right, so am I correct at this point that he would have had to slip on either one side or the other of this huge armored truck?
Yeah, if he's not already down there, Gary, which is probably the case. I mean, I think the whole story of his entrance there has been, obfuscated, confused, made ambiguous, very difficult to sort out. And besides, it's not Ruby anyway, it's Bookout. So he's almost certainly already down there.
A while ago. From here at...
we could pull Ralph in to talk about this some more, Gary.
I think that's a good idea. I think Ralph would be great to have on. So, all right, fellas, I guess we'll call it on this show tonight, and we'll start again next week. So last words, Dr. Fetzer.
No, good clips, Gary. Great to have you here, Don.
Thanks for having me, guys. And maybe we'll play that Malcolm Kilduff clip on one of the future shows.
Good idea. Good idea.
Next show. All right, fellas. This has been the new JFK show, number 192. We'll see you next week. And thank you for 153 News. And thanks for the analysis of the 153 News clip. Because we're going to be keeping our eye out on JFK on our new channel. No baloney on our new video channel. We'll see you next week, guys.